We finally made it.
We did it.
I can't believe it.
We made it.
Dude, I only have one screen today. I've got
Are you trying to flex on us that you have
Nah.
1,000 screens?
Dude, I've seen your setup. Well, I think I've seen your setup.
I know.
I've
I'm only
seen-
running a 4 monitor now. I used to run a 6 to 8. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'll put on 8 and it was just way too much for me.
Dude,
Like my ADHD was like flying from screen to screen. I didn't even know what positions I had open no more.
but right, like, I mean, if you don't, that's too funny. So my ADHD is like through the roof, and I feel like I can manage better with that many screens because I can see so many things at once.
Right.
But it's funny, like a lot of traders actually have like seriously bad ADD, man.
Yep.
Like really bad. But that's right. I still take my meds every morning for some reason.
Helps us analyze.
This is probably why you have a hard time sleeping too. Because if you have the
1,000%.
like
Yep.
ADD, like I didn't realize we have such a hard time getting to sleep. And then once we finally get to sleep, it's like we can't
Hard to
wake
stay
up.
asleep.
Oh my God. Because I take like red pills at night, green pills in the morning, like my go pills and my no pills, right? It's like muscle relaxers and whatever, nighttime. Okay. And then like I have to sit, I live in California. So like over here, it's 1:30 my time. I have to wake up at 4 a.m. because it takes like an hour for my meds to kick in and I can like somewhat be coherent.
Yep.
And it's just it's
We're
I don't
just
know how you do
loaded
it.
up on the pills.
What time is it over there right now?
Right now it is 4:32. I'm Eastern.
See, that's why you can get I never you and our other boy Bryce, right? Like you guys crush the open, man. I am not an opening trader.
I am
sure.
only the open. Anything else other than open, you just see me die out. I'm like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I remember one of my trades was open for like a good 3-4 hours, like a full day trade. And I just like everyone on stream saw me. They're like, Ace is dying. Ace is dying. Like, he's so unresponsive. He does not care for his chat no more.
Dude, hilarious.
Like,
yeah, no, I'm good. Like when I learned trading, it was all about volatility. Like that's when you learn from those old school ex market makers, it's all about volatility, and that's like basically the only way to trade. So that was actually how I learned. Oh well, when I was getting serious, like finally around to get serious, that's
right.
That's what it was all about. All right, so I'm gonna kick it off. I'm actually just, if you guys don't know who this guy is, I was toying on whether I should call him the Sultan of Sacks or ES elitist, right? But like Ace of Trades, man, one of my favorite traders of all times. One thing I wanted to bring him in, what we've done so far, Ace, if you haven't been following the Trading Foundation series, the first iteration was all about options, volatility views, and things like that, different types of trade structures. And then it was all about like, look, I had initially thought, well, we'll leave the trading technicals and price actions to the server owners, but there's just so many questions about how to trade price action. I was like, okay, let's do one on the foundation of trading, right? And we started out with price action strategies and things like that, left off last week with basically my hardened system of how I actually take the trades, not IV, right? So like understanding price action is like, where is the price going up or down next? Right? That's all it is. But it's extremely critical to have a good foundation there. But that said, like understanding options is a whole nother piece that needs to be learned independently or similarly, right? But it's a whole nother learning curve that's different than price action. And those two things, I think they have at this point. But what's important and what's probably the most important is like, doesn't matter how good of a trader you are. You can have a 99% win rate and lose money, right? Like seriously,
my
right?
favorite quote is that exactly.
Really? Yeah, like it's I was listening to one of your streams a while ago, and I think when did you start trading? A few years back, right? Like 4 or 5
years back, correct?
Something like that. And I'm sure that you were trading with a lot of other great traders too, and probably some that were like you'd probably say are better than you. I know I was, right? But and I remember this distinctly, you saying like the only reason that they're gone and you're still here is because of your money management skills, right?
Ooh,
and
really?
And it's so important and people, in Discord, it's such a young community, and we see all this new generation of people coming in chasing our metrics, because we do have good metrics, like whatever metric you want, average return, win rate, average wins, like low losses, whatever. But they're still finding themselves, and they don't realize it. Their win rates are good, but they're still losing money, and they're like think it has to do with becoming a better trader. And I'm
Yep.
like,
And they just keep
no,
thinking, oh, I need a new strategy, even though sometimes they're winning at an 80% win rate.
right? Like it's like, and they might not even know that they're running at that kind of win rate. But my guess is that they're really not that bad. You could be an absolute shit trader, let's be real, and be a profitable trader.
Yep.
Like it's very true. You can
I've
have
actually showed this for one of my small accounts, one of the first ones that I ever ran. I was 4 for 5 in terms of the loss on the downside, and I was green just off of that one single trade. And the reason why, money management. I was closing
absolutely.
off all of those trades at 3% loss, 5% loss, and people are like, "Oh, he's shit. We're not going to follow." Next thing you know, within a week, I was done the challenge.
Dude, that is absolutely wild, man. Like, I mean, actually, Steven's on here too. He's one I trade with, like 3 or 4 different, like 3 pros right now that are also full-time traders. Steven's same way. Like he has a bot, but he doesn't send a whole lot of alerts. And I'm like, dude, this guy has been around about, I want to say like 2 years with me, and I'm like, he's just like Mr. Consistency, right? Like, I don't. I think all of you guys, you have Forex background as well, right?
I do. 8 years ago, I started on Forex.
So
Got caught into the MLM little background of it. I gave no shits. I was just so interested in the actual trading.
dude, like the best technical traders I know, I mean, hands down, all come from Forex. Unfortunately, the space has an absolutely horrible like reputation right now.
Yep.
But yeah, anybody with the Forex background, they're gonna be like killers when it comes to technicals. But so, I mean, enough about me really quick. Like, I just, do you want to share a little bit about your story, your how you got here? And the biggest thing, I want to get into this money management thing, and I just think it's so important for everybody to understand, like, what does that look like? Because if
Most
you're new,
definitely.
like, you might think that you're managing money well, or risk, because you're thinking risk management, right? But
Mhm.
but what does that even mean, right? And I think your background, your track record, you can actually, are you able to share your screen? If you want to, you should be able to share your screen. If you guys don't know, Ace absolutely destroys these small account challenges, and I thought that his perspective on this would be unique as well, just because like how many of these have you done, right? Like, this is a live tracker, like you guys can,
I think this is like my 12th one on Discord alone.
12.
Yeah.
So not to sound stalkerish, but I mean, I do listen to your stuff. Maybe maybe I have a little band crush on you. Let's just for sure. But
I'm blushing now.
yeah, you said one time you did an account, a small account challenge, and essentially have rolled it
Yep,
since that first
that
one.
is correct.
Tell that story.
So it was the first time that Concord ever started. I'm like, oh, you know what? Would absolutely blow this server out of the water if I did a, a small account challenge starting from $1,000 and getting to 100K onwards. And people
thousand
are like,
dollars.
they're like, that's not possible. Like you're reaching for the stars, buddy. I'm like, all right, like I've done $250 to 2,500. I'm like, how much harder could this possibly be? I rolled it out. 10 people were following me to the T. So it started off with a good 200 to 300 members following with me nonstop.
Yeah.
You would see on the option chain just the volume just flying through the roof. Some people were trying to 3x it, 100x it, just trying to multiply whatever I was doing. And it got to a point where as soon as they take that one huge loss on that main account, they're no longer there. So it only ended up being like 10 to 15 of us by the end of it. And one of them I actually hired as one of my managers, just because he was able to follow the rules so closely with me. And the thing is, I'm doing it live, and I was sharing
Yeah.
my screen and my brokerage, so they know there was no filter or buffer or anything like that. Whatever I was showing, I was doing with full transparency. And so we got to 12K, and so many people were
From
like, I
from how
put on
much,
from $1,000.
dude?
And this was like a month or two in, while I was still trading on my main account too, mind you, because I still need to make money for myself. I do this full time, so I'm not gonna make
Yeah.
10 grand and say, oh my god, this is incredible. This is
Right.
like with my lifestyle nowadays, it's not possible to live off of that. So I was still trading on my main account. We got to 12K, and I agreed with everyone. I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should reset it. And within that time of resetting it, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going. Like, screw this. And while everyone was getting their $1,000 ready in their account and making sure that they were on a new cash account, not a margin account on Robinhood or whatever the case is. I don't know how the States works, obviously, because
Yeah.
I'm from Canada, but within that time, I think it was like 1 month, that 12K was now at $72,000.
That is disgusting.
And
Yeah,
from that 72,
absolutely
yeah,
sickening,
like
dude.
people did not believe what the fuck was going on. And it was because I was hitting, there was one day I remember, and a lot of people from the server who are OGs will remember, I hit a back to back to back 1000% gainer every single fucking day. And it was
Oh,
just nonstop,
you dog.
500%, 300%, 1000%, 300%. And it was like, it would just not stop. And obviously, it was just, the market at that time was incredible. But
Sure.
regardless, money management, risk management, all part of the strategy.
Yeah, I mean, like, but if you're hitting at that rate, right? Like, how do you not like feel that you should be able to continue hitting at that rate, right? Like, I think that's part of one of the challenges. You
Right.
know, when someone comes in and I always have this story, like me and my lady. I remember taking her to Vegas. I hope she can't hear me. She probably can. She's in the other room. Taking her to Vegas for the first time, and I swear to God, dude, she sat down first machine, jackpot, and I'm like, oh my God, she's completely screwed for life, right?
Yeah.
And that was true, right? It's like it's the same. Like if you go into the market, and this is what, unfortunately, where a lot of people are, it's like they did start trading in the pandemic, and it's just like, in my mind, like going to Vegas and sitting down at your first machine and hitting a jackpot and chasing that like high,
Yeah.
forever.
And that's how a
And
lot of people actually get caught up in the whole act of options, right? They get that little taste where it tastes so good. They see how
oh, it
quick
does.
they can make that profit. And next
Yeah,
thing you know, their account is blown up that same week, right? But because they got that little taste, next thing you know, they're refilling their accounts with all of their savings and still blowing it.
dude. So how did you do this, right? Like, walk us through your mentality, and like, because most people just, they can't do it, right? So if pretend like these 50 some odd people don't know what, like, kindergarten, they just got their first jackpot. What do you tell them?
What am I telling them? So obviously you guys have gone through the classes. You guys understand options by now. You guys know how to read the chart. And now we're getting into your actual account, right? So we're starting off, again, we'll say $1,000. It's kind of the basis in terms of small accounts, right? The number one thing that I typically tell people is you need to conduct that self-assessment. How good are you actually? And what is your actual win rate from this point right now? Or are you currently at an initial start? Are you just starting off with this $1,000 and that's all you're actually running with? Are you running a small account challenge where you've had a history of trading previously, right? So you have to actually critique yourself in terms of that kind of manner, right? And the reason why I say that is um, there is confidence level within an actual trade plan, right? And if I'm confident within my strategies and I know I'm currently hitting, and you guys can see with this current log right now, we're currently at a 90.91% win rate. I think we've lost 2 trades
Yeah,
out of,
what are you right now? 33 or something? And oh, I don't even
oh,
want to
so
know.
on my main account, we're at 33 wins in a row.
Yeah, you dog.
So, so I know what I'm doing in terms of the option side, right? So at this point, my risk in terms of how much position sizing I'm going to be putting might be a lot heavier than a person who's just starting out, not knowing what to do, not knowing even how to execute a trade properly, right? So all those things kind of matter as well when you're dealing with small accounts. You can't just jump in and think, I'm going to go as heavy as Ace because his strategy allows him to.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't really make
I
sense.
stopped sending actually my position quantity and dollars all
Yep.
together.
I
Like
did long time ago until
very,
the small
very,
account challenges.
yeah, very early on. I don't think we can, if we set, that's, I feel bad, right? Like I might say, hey, look, I have 100 contracts, but
But
and
100
then
contracts to you might
it's
be
nothing,
1% of your account,
right? But
whereas
that
to
like,
someone, that's more than what they even have in their account.
right. Yeah. So I mean, I think, we're all pretty disciplined at this point, at least anyone who's been like, uh, what would, we're not analysts, man. I hate that term. Like we're
I
just
hate that.
traders.
I absolutely hate that term.
Stupid. We're just traders, but like we're public traders where we know that people are watching. So like, I mean, yeah, most of the disciplined ones, we will not show you our dollar P&L. It's not anything personal, right? It's literally because we've had more than our fair share of people trying to throw some 50K at whatever because we have, a 10K position and they're chasing profits, or like they're down so bad they think that they need to, bet bigger. And it's just the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah, I just, I'm trying to get like, most of the time I'll see people go in and they're, swing trading. You rarely swing trade, but you mentioned something about high confidence plays, and the pandemic traders, I feel like a lot of them, when they see something high confidence, they think like YOLO, like we're gonna go, leaps out of the money. I'm like, that's probably the quickest way to blow an account in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, so what does a good trade look like to you? And like, what is your, like, how do you set that up? Like, what's a high confidence trade even look like, right? And then how do you determine your stops and your profit targets?
For sure. So in terms of all of that in general, it's going to be confirmation, right? Like we've heard that term being thrown around nonstop, but what is in your actual trade plan? Did you guys go through trade plans at all in terms of the seminars?
So actually, this is going to be the very beginning of creating a trade plan. Our
Nice.
boy Jesse is gonna wrap this all up at the very end, believe it or not.
Nice.
And we're gonna basically put a full, like, here's the system, right? Now we're into the meaty part of it. I believe the meaty part. And that's creating your trade plan. So that's actually kind of where this is going. So awesome.
Right.
Run with it.
So that's why I bring that up, is because everything I do and surround myself is surrounding an actual trade plan. You guys have probably heard this many, many times, but if you don't have a plan, then essentially your plan is to fail, right? You're guessing, you're gambling, you're at that casino in Las Vegas hoping for that jackpot. So that's why I bring it up. I'll throw it up on the screen real fast in terms of one that I did on stream with everyone.
I was not expecting you to come in with actual content. If you send me this stuff, I can email these guys everything.
Perfect.
And for the people that are asking if it's recorded, yes, they're all recorded. If I miss, that's fine. I don't think Ace is a stratter. Or
I'm a cheat sheet stratter.
Yeah. So when I first taught the strat here, I actually had my buddy who works at Sepia Group come in and like go through it. But yeah, it's, every professional trader uses the strat, whether or not they know it or call it the strat. It's all very similar. There's only one real like clean way to trade that I've ever seen. And it's all pretty much the same. And don't listen to any retail, guru talking about RSIs or crap, right? We don't use that. Yeah.
Who uses RSIs?
It's the stupidest thing.
What are you trying to? I'm just joking.
If a trader ever says, "Hey, this is oversold," dude, delete unfollow, right? Like instant.
So yeah,
Yeah,
in
jump
terms
into
of the
this. We can get to the rest later.
yeah. So in terms of the trade plan, guys, it always deals with, for myself, 4 pillars. And that's going to be methodology. You need to understand what the hell you're even trying to accomplish from trading and what you're even stipulated to do, right? You can kind of think of this as your job description, right? In your job description, you're required to do X, Y, and Z, right? If you say, go clean the toilets, but you're an accountant, you're like, that's not within my job description. Sorry, fuck you. Same thing for trading, right? Follow the rules within your given plan. Next thing is going to be your money management. And this is what we are going to be talking about predominantly within the analyzing these small accounts, right? So what is your risk of ruin, right? What are your stop losses? Do you have actual rules for averaging down? Is that part of your strategy? In terms of money allocation, right? Where is that money actually going once you do secure some gains, right? Say this is your only account and you only have a small account and you want to become a full-time trader. What are you going to do once you actually become profitable, right? Do you have an emergency fund? All those kind of things. Next is going to be your psychology, right? Do you have a daily record? Are you actually logging everything that you're doing? How else are you going to critique yourself, right? What is your frame of mind, right? Is your psychology up to par in terms of, oh my God, fuck, I'm still in this trade. I should close this just because it doesn't make sense, right? You have to think as robotic as possible. And it was actually in one of the questions that you sent me where it was like, what is your mindset when you're in a trade?
Yeah.
So I like to say my mindset is almost non-existent. And that's why I stream online, is to give everyone some kind of peace when they're watching me. We'll be down sometimes on 2-3 positions. And next thing you know, they're looking at me like, Ace is calm as a motherfucker. This guy's cracking jokes. And
Right?
I remember some guy tried to rip on me. He was like, you're so unprofessional. You're making people lose money and you're laughing. I'm like, yeah, I'm laughing because watch. And then next thing you know, 2 minutes later, we're up 200% on every single position we were part of. And he just got ripped to shreds by everyone in chat. Dude, right? So you have to be as neutral as possible in terms of, that's how I see myself, at least. So hear me out. With like all the knowledge you have, it's already ingrained inside of you, right? As soon as you start to think and have a mindset and you begin to process a little bit more, you're over analyzing at that point. Yep. Whatever you know is what you know, right? And whatever you've already analyzed, it should already be objective to the point where it's a yes or no. Am I still staying in this trade? Yes or no? What are my confirmations? Has it broken that? Is the play invalidated? Is it still in play, right? So everything you do should be second nature at that given point. All your decisions, yes or no. There is no maybes in trading.
Dude, it's so funny, man. Like this is, I actually did not realize that you had all this stuff. I love everything that I'm seeing here, for sure. Like people are asking like, yeah, I remember like, don't you love being a trader? I'm like, to be honest, it's kind of like, yeah,
it's whatever.
Yeah, it's like you're a robot is what it is, right? Yep. It's like, oh, okay, this happened, then that happens. This happens, then I do that.
Read
right?
A few books, and I think it was, don't quote me on this, I think it's Mastering the Trade. Sure. If anyone's ever read that, but they actually bring up that traders have the very same mindset as like serial killers.
Dude, what?
Just because of the way their shit is wired, like so robotic, so like no thought process behind what they're doing, because everything that they already know is already within them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where they're just like acting upon memory. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Hey, so on your can you scroll up a little bit to like the money management piece, and like, so how did you come up with this, man? And because I had a feeling you might have something like, because I've seen the way that you trade and I've seen what you do, but I didn't know. So now I see. So how did you come up with this, and like where I mean, where did this come from?
It really did come from trial and error. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
In terms of obviously position sizing, it's going to be significantly different. This is not to say this is for the small account. This could be for my main account. It was just for one of the accounts that we were working with. Mm-hmm. I believe this one was actually
25K account. If I'm, yeah, 25K account. I don't know if a lot of people were following that one. It's currently sitting at 40K, and I kind of just pushed it to the side because it was too hard to manage the small account plus my main account plus the 25K account.
Yeah.
So I pushed that one to the side. It got to 40K. Everyone was happy. And I'm like, if you guys want, just follow my main account because it's the exact same fucking thing, just not showing how many contracts I'm picking up. So the maximum per trade, I actually said 10%, which to a lot of people may be like super heavy. Some people might be small. I've seen people use, and even myself, for a matter of fact, use 30% of their account, which is absolutely ridiculous to some people, right? However, sometimes there's a method to the madness.
Right.
So for myself, let's just use the 25K as an example, it was a maximum of 10% per trade with an initial entry of 2.5 to 5% of account.
Bingo. Okay, so how do you come up with that number? And so I think, you know, where you might be going, I have a feeling, is that like when you start out, you know, someone's new, let's say they have $1,000, right?
Right.
Is it 10% or is it 20% or like, and then as your account grows, how do you manage that and constantly adjust your positions? Like that's one of the hardest things. This is what you see, and I'm sure you do, is that there are a lot of people in Discord that are really good at taking, let's say like, you know, 5K and turning it into 50K, and then taking 50K and turning it into 5K. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
like
I know
really
exactly
good
what
at
you're
that
saying.
exact situation, right?
Yep.
And there is this point in time where you must shift, right?
Mhm.
And you don't learn it, like nobody teaches it, right?
Yep.
So I think if you take the opportunity to kind of teach that too, like I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that a lot of people have when trying to actually grow like their nut, right? Like
Yep.
what would you tell them, and how does it work?
So the way that I've actually processed this for myself, and again, it all began with trial and error, right? Understanding exactly what is the method behind it all. And it was when I actually got my account huge where I realized, shit, there's huge diminishing returns here. I can't keep entering with 30% of my account. There's not enough fucking volume for me, right? I'm buying up all the contracts. I am the liquid. I am all of the volume that's within these cons. I'm selling
the
to
market.
myself. I am the market.
Yeah.
Right. So it comes to a point where you have to understand that too, right? Is there enough volume for you to even sell? And does it make sense for your given account to be taking in those kind of spreads sometimes? And like even for the 0DTE SPY that I was in today that we secured, I mean, you could have secured over 300%, but even for that, the spread got to a point where it was at like a 50%, right?
Yep.
So you guys have to understand all of that comes into play as well. So for myself, when I'm trading on a larger account, that position sizing is getting significantly reduced as a comparison to an $1,000 account where I may throw in 30% of the account just because I'm able to lose that money as well. I think you guys have to understand that too.
So let's say if you're a smaller account, right? What's a good let's say $1,000, what would you say a good starting point is?
I'm
for
going to be
position
honest.
size?
I'll typically run that from starting out from $200 per position.
Yeah.
I'm using 20% of that account, giving myself a little bit of a leeway in terms of that average down. So if anything, my initial position is starting off around that 10% to 15%, right? So I'm going in with 100, 150, and then I'm putting in a maximum position of maybe 25% to 30%. And that's heavy on the heavier side.
So let's say you put in 20%, right? And then, so that's $200 in a $1,000 account, or $2,000 in a $10,000 account. Either way, it doesn't matter. How much leeway do you give that 20%? And then how do you roll with that? I think that's really the next piece, right? Because, you know, what kind of drawdown, and then, you know, you're saying, can I stop loss? Can I move my stop losses?
I'm typically on, again, this is just the English is so hard. Yeah. This is typically on the crazier side of trading, right? In terms of my strategies, I typically play to the chart, right? If the chart is still valid and the play is still valid, I don't see a reason for exiting sometimes. However, for a small account, it's different. And the reason why I say that is because nothing stops you from re-entering the trade when it's valid again, right? Or whenever there's a full confirmation. So say if we do enter, next thing you know, the trend starts to consolidate, right? However, the play is still completely valid. All of the reasons as to why you entered is still there. However, obviously it might be theta that's eating you out a little bit, right? And you're like, oh shit, like I'm down 10% now, 15%, and it hasn't even moved at all, right? What should I do? Exit the fucking trade. As soon as it gets confirmed, re-enter. What's stopping you from doing that? Right. Whereas on your main account, sometimes you can have that larger leeway in terms of playing truly to the chart, like I do on my main account, where if the play is not gone, it's still in play for me. Right. So in terms of those stop losses on a small account, I'm trying to maximize all of my potential gain and minimize all my potential loss, guys. Right. So if I see the play is gonna consolidate, or if it's gonna potentially change its trend, I'm exiting that play immediately. I don't care if I have a firm stop loss set to, it might be 35, it might be 25, given on the actual play itself, right? If I see that it's no longer set for me at that given point and it's only at a 5% loss, eat the 5%. It's only 5% as opposed to eating up the 25 to 35% because of your hopium. It doesn't make sense.
Love it. Hopium. Man, I think so let's say if you go in, how do you know? Let's assume that they know whether or not it's going to reverse. And I think that's probably another piece of it also. So one, you're saying, okay, you have to know price action first, right? To be able to identify like your change of character or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I think like how long would you let, especially like if you're trading the open, right? And this is what scares me about the open. I know you love it, but like what scares me about the open is that I know volatility is freaking through the roof.
It's
right?
insane.
And in that first hour, it like continues to ramp, right?
Yep.
So like if you got it, to me, I always tell you, if you got in the first hour, within the first, be out within the first hour, right?
Yep.
Like
and most of my guys will know 9:30, 10:30, ace is gone by 10:30.
Yeah,
if not 11 at most.
Yeah, actually, and that's if I miss the open, I don't even start really looking until around that time, right? And I'll trade the PM session, right? That's where, you're the AM session, I'm the PM, because it's the same, those 2 hours of the day are the highest volume and second highest volume, right? Of any given trading day. So, I mean, those are where we need to be, and everything else in between is really just either going to be continuing trend or reversing. And that's all we're really looking for once we're in. But so what, like, how do you know that a trade is going to be good enough for you to even take, right? Like, what kind of profits do you have, like targets? So if you have, if the trade is still valid, what do you look? Are you just looking for those higher highs and lower and higher lows, or vice versa? Or
that's definitely a part of it. A lot of it that I do, guys, is predominantly off of volume, right? Price is going to move based off of its volume, right? In terms of supply and demand, in terms of all that kind of good jazz, if you guys learned economics at all. So in terms of, did I study it? It was part of what I did. So I have an honors bachelor in finance itself. So I did have like 3
that has
courses
nothing to do with trading.
I
love it.
Finance? Psh, what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Debit.
So credit. All the accounts ill. I just threw up. So in terms of my targets, I'm really using a lot of volume by price, right? So if you guys know your visible range, exactly. Seeing exactly where that next area of high volume actually is for each given price point, seeing where the gaps, so the troughs actually are, where price is going to move in terms of a lot more volatile, right? Where you're going to get those larger candles and those bigger moves, because that's what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for it to enter that trough, head into its peak, and secure at that next peak, because I'm going to either see a consolidation or blow past that peak itself.
Okay, I think we're getting.
Someone just asked, What
Yeah.
time
So
frames do you trade, Ace? So I like to use what's called divisibles. So if I am trading on or intraday trading on a
divisibles.
6 minute divisibles, correct. So I want anything that is divisible by 3. So that's going to be my main time frame.
Don't tell
And the
me you have
reason
a 63-minute candle. Do you?
I do not.
Okay.
So that's when I start to go into like the hourly. Don't worry.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't, Steven might remember if he's in chat. Like, I think it's like I don't remember, like an 80-minute, 108-minute candle or some
Oh
random
my goodness.
shenanigans. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll use like intraday 3 minute. And the reason why is because the 1 minute, it fakes out way too many people, including myself. It gives way too much information and you're kind of all over the place trying to analyze. Same goes for a 2 minute. So I start at the 3 and then work my way up from there. So 3, 6, 12, 24, 48, and then I go into the hourlies.
So I know that they're asking about looking at a chart, right? And I think, you know, I think it was a 65-minute. There you go. I think part of the problem is those like, so at this point in your trading journey, right? Like, if you want Ace to show you a chart, I would kind of challenge that, right? Like, are you still going to be able to manage your position, right? Like, so, I mean, at this point, like, what are we missing? So you have, you're putting 10% in, right? What's your first, like, what's a good trade for you? And then where do you just call it quits on the trade? How do you know?
What's a good trade for me and how do I call it quits on the trade?
Yeah,
Correct?
like, how do you, yeah, so like you enter a trade, right?
Okay.
And then, we're talking about stop losses and things like that. I learned it as like defending your positions, right? So how do you how do you defend your positions outside of price action, right? So I
Ooh,
know, yeah, because it's a big deal, right? Like,
right.
especially when you're talking about options, price action is maybe 50% of
Yep.
what's going to determine whether or not you're profitable. It is not stock up by call. It is not
Yep.
stock down by put. It's not how it works, right? If you want to do that,
Exactly.
go trade futures, right? But if you're trading options, right, like outside of price action, how are you defending those positions? And what what are your rules around that?
Right. So the way that I look at like defending your positions in like retrospect, it's more of like a reference point in terms of, how should I say it? Like how to reduce exposure in my positions, correct? That's where
Yeah.
we're kind of like, so in terms of like, obviously, that risk money management. So for myself, it relays back to what I call the overs. And the overs is what
So we
I
need to write
believe.
this in your secret sauce here. Like, I'm looking for the divisibles, the overs.
So in terms of the overs, guys, I think these are the biggest mistakes that people make as traders. And what it is over trading, over leveraging,
Yeah, the O's, the
over
big O's.
analyzing, and overconfidence, right? So it
This is
always
the
relays back to those. So more specifically in terms of defending your positions, guys, it's going to be that over leveraging and over trading, right? So if you are putting way too much of your accounts into a single position, or you're taking on way too many trades that you're even capable of managing, that's what's going to eat up your account as well, right? So for myself, for my day trades, I don't typically like, in terms of like defend your positions, I don't typically like hedge or play spreads to necessarily defend my positions. It's more so proactively trading, meaning I'm only taking those 1 to 2 trades at a single time to properly gauge and watch the charts. In terms of that risk management, what am I doing once I'm in a trade to make sure that I am keeping my capital at a cool, right? So how am I making sure that all the money that I currently have, I am making sure that I'm managing that accordingly, right? And the way that I'm doing that is obviously, like I said, proactively watching the chart. And number 2 is just going to be making sure I understand what's going on in terms of that single trade. And that's why I don't take on a lot of trades at a single time. I don't know how to possibly manage 6 trades or 15 trades like some of these self-proclaimed, again, analysts on
My bad.
Discord are rolling out, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how people are doing that. And and obviously me being a full-time trader for a long time, I've never been capable of doing that. It's just not part of my capabilities.
So do you have a rule like, you know, if you see another thing, so once you open one trade and then you want to go to another one, like, do you tell yourself, oh, I can't go to another trade until I close this first trade? Or
Not necessarily. However, if I'm in, I would say 3 positions at a single time, I'm not even considering opening up another trade.
yeah,
However, if I'm in one position, I'll still look at a few others. I typically have a 6 charter every single day open. So I'm looking at 6 charts on 2 screens plus the market itself on another. So I have 8 or 14 charts open at a single time.
yeah, you
And
definitely need to step your game up, dude. Like, for
Oh,
not just
sorry.
Yeah.
But the main thing here in terms of that was, for myself at least, like I said, I'm not capable of watching every single chart. I've always told people, narrow it down. What the hell do you like to trade and what actually works for you? So what I noticed for myself, SPY is my baby. I'll
Yep.
always trade SPY. I love her. I like a lot of the larger caps just because those cons will have the volume behind it for me to get into those larger positions on my main account. So I'm talking things like Meta, Apple, Tesla, obviously, so on and so forth, right? So I'm constantly trading those day in and day out. And during my pre-market analysis, if my eyes need to be somewhere else, such as CVX as an example, right? Then
Yeah.
I'll pull up CVX. And that's just strictly off of pre-market analysis because my eyes were on it based on news.
Yeah, I think there's just, when I was learning, my first mentor called it your stable. It's like
Mhm.
it's stable of stocks, you know,
Yep.
like if they're horses, like you go into the stable and you decide which
Exactly.
horse you want to take out and ride for the day.
Because
And
then you
that's
know those horses the best,
yeah,
right? You
for
know
sure.
how they're going to behave. You know how those options actually typically move. Obviously, you can't just gauge it strictly off of a single trading day or how a few sessions went.
Yeah.
Volatility might absolutely ramp up and you have no clue why. And hey, you just got fucked. Or you're riding it and congrats to you, but it's not going to happen again if you don't know why.
Yeah.
Someone just said, Ace, can you walk us through your prep pre-market and how you prep for the open considering pre-market price action?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a long-winded one.
You do have a little secret sauce thing, or not, I don't know if it's secret, but you have, I think, the morning routine, your
That's always consistent.
yeah,
So the
like,
morning routine.
yeah, I think, you know, for a new trader, like when we were talking, when Ace was talking earlier about becoming a robot, we all have our, what's the word, like morning constitution, like,
Yep.
you know, like you have your coffee and then you go to the bathroom and then, you know, have some more coffee and then you open the charts, right? Like it's in this order every day, no matter
Yep.
what, right?
It's
Like,
exactly. And people always laugh at me because mine, it's not a coffee necessarily because I always try to save my caffeine for the gym. But mine's a huge ass protein smoothie that I drink straight out of the blender. And
there
I
you
give
go.
no shits. I just drink it in front of everyone.
Yeah. And I think like we have our own personal trading schedules, right? So he
Yep.
mentioned that. So these are things that you guys should put into your routine, right? Like if your routine includes, I believe, so you go to a certain site to find highest
I do
volume.
gap. Yep. So I
Yeah.
do highest volume. I look at gap up and gap downs, right? So your gainers and decliners for your pre-market.
Yep.
And then I'm looking at your economics, right? What is the actual news for that day? Do you have GDP? Do you have CPI? Is there unemployment rates, so on and so forth? So you're
Mhm.
looking at the news for that given day. And I would typically say, look for the more important news, right? So if you're looking at some random person at the house speaking and it gives no fucking matter,
Yeah.
right? Like if they're talking about like, what color is the sky? What the
Yeah.
fuck does that matter? Don't worry about it, right? Look for the most important news and learn how to swift through all of that BS as fastly as possible, right? So you can get straight to it and you don't have to waste your time in the morning, right? Again, especially if you're on the West Coast, you're tired of shit already,
Yeah.
right? Try to be as efficient and effective as possible. The next things that I'm looking at, guys, is the morning call. Everything's summarized for me. And Reuters has an amazing one. If you guys go to like Walter Bloomberg always post it, but you can literally Google it. Reuters morning call. It breaks down everything for you from top news to acquisitions to stocks on watch to what's going on within the top markets, so on and so forth. How did the European market open up? Oh, so on and so forth. So it's all going to be helping you in towards what your actual outlook is for the day. And another thing that I look at, and obviously you newer traders are not going to be looking at this, is a lot of polarity shit. And the reason why I do that is because I used to be a big nerd. I used to love statistics. So I used to just look at the markets, compare them into each other, and then look at the fear gauge, and then try to look at some statistics based off of all of that.
What do you mean fear gauge? Are you talking about the VIX or?
Correct.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah. So like we do a Monday weekly trade plan every Monday. Well, every time Monday is trading. We won't do it this Monday, 4th of July. But yeah, you guys can tune into ours on that also if you don't already. But yeah, it's and we help sift through, because when you're new, like you could probably use those little filters like high impact news and things like that. That helps a lot. But yeah, Google economic calendar, a lot of that'll come in. I think there's a podcast or something. It might have been a Seeking Alpha podcast. It was like the what did you call it? The morning break or the morning
breakdown and whatnot.
Yeah. So like
I actually I'm actually sponsored by one of these guys who I never use them to. but yeah, there's so many of them that you guys can use. There's so many options.
So I don't want to take a ton of the time. I know we're coming in, but like, I mean, from a money management perspective, I know we went through like scheduling, things like that. I guess like what would you tell like the newest generation, right? Like, you know, what is the one thing, like if they're gonna leave this and you want them to absolutely understand, you know, the one point, what would that one thing be for the new traders in terms of managing their bankrolls and you know, just general money and risk management?
It's funny because it's what's pulled up right now, guys. It's literally your trade plan. And it sounds so stupid, and like it seems like the most generic answer that there possibly is, but have a trade plan, see what works for you, right? And the number one thing that people always miss out on is consistency and discipline. People can have a trade plan and not follow it, right? It's about actually following what's stipulated within your trade plan and being disciplined enough to say day in and day out, I'm going to follow this no matter fucking what, right? I'm not going to over leverage. I'm not going to keep throwing money into a losing play and throwing it down into the garbage chute, right? So you have to remember there is no best strategy. It doesn't matter how much you keep expanding your knowledge. If you already have a 70% win rate or even an 80%, you're already phenomenal, right? You already know what's going on in terms of trading. You just need to learn how to execute that money management, how you need to properly manage every single trade that you're in, right? If you have an incredible and impeccable win rate, you may win every single fucking trade. And guess what? That last trade is a loser. And because your ego is so big, you're throwing more money in. You're averaging down every 2 seconds. Next thing you know, your whole account is in and it's gone. It's now 4 p.m. That position is closed. You're out of the money.
Seen so many times, man. Many times.
Way too many times. And it's sad to say that I say that, and a lot of people can relate to it. Well, that's here right now.
Yeah. And they don't even know it's happening until it's already happened. Really,
exactly.
That's the worst part for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at yourself. So you pay yourself 10% a week. Do you have like?
This is actually when I first started. So I paid myself 10% profits weekly. 60% went into my long-term accounts. 30% of profits got reinvested. None of that happens no more, guys. The 10% of profits weekly, that's no longer a thing. The reason why is because I'm now diverse into other markets, right? Whether it be real estate, whether if it's angel investing, all those kind of good stuff. I no longer need the money from my trading account to pay myself. The reason why I did it at the beginning was because I was trading out of a corporate account or a self-employed account here in Canada. And I needed to prove that I am self-sufficient within my trading. That way I can even build even a point in my credit, right? Otherwise, I was not getting a loan. I could not get a mortgage for the life of me, so on and so forth. So I needed a history behind me. And that was the reasoning as to why I paid myself profits. In terms of your longer accounts, right? You don't necessarily have to go straight into your longer accounts. You can be diverse. You can do it into other side hustles that you may have, right? But the main thing here in general is just going to be your money allocation. What actually matters to you, right? Do you have an emergency fund? That's going to be another huge thing, because obviously there's God's will, right? You never know. Your house may absolutely break down and insurance might not cover you. And what are you going to do, right? Do you have can you go to a hotel for 6 months? Do you have enough money for that? Do you have enough money to pay your insurance? And if you have dependents such as kids, do you have enough money to support them still? Right? You can't just go on a whim unless you live at home with your parents and have absolutely no expenses, so on and so forth.
It's
So
funny.
everything has to make sense for yourself.
We get the people that are like, I want to become a full-time trader, right? And I'm like, okay, well, how much do you have? And I'm always thinking, well, you have to be super well capitalized, right?
Right.
But they're like, oh, okay, I got 10 grand. I'm like, okay, in your trading account? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, where's the other money? What, like, and they're like,
that
what
is
do you
the
mean?
money.
And I'm like, I know, dude. Yeah, not even kind of. So like if we have, I like to trade with about $250,000. I don't know what your typical trading account looks like.
Right.
But like, what would you say?
So it's funny that you say that, because that account that started at 1K sits at $250,000 nonstop, if not a little bit over. Yeah. And I just keep it there.
Yeah.
Everything else gets reinvested somewhere.
If my balance goes over that $250,000, I withdraw it and put it off to the side, right?
Yep.
I don't know. I think what happens after a while, and I was, to that first trader who has a tendency of taking 5K, turning into 50K, taking 50K, turning to 5K. I always tell them, dude, pull the money out and start yourself over at that amount where you crush it, right?
Yeah.
And then every week or whatever happens to be, delete, start over until you can slowly build that small nut, right? Like if you have 10
even
grand,
just imagine that guy who turns 5K to 50K. If he just restart every single time,
that's exactly it.
45K.
Oh my
he
God.
would have been compounded ridiculously by now.
Huge, right? But people, they can't, they don't want to do that. They're like, they want to have those big accounts so they can make these big plays. And doing that is exactly what you just said, right?
They don't realize that there's diminishing returns once you're up there.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's exactly that. It really is. It's like you just ran probably 90% win rate at 50% profit of all your trades, and to build this 50K, and then and you were doing that using 20-30% of your account at a time, and you're going to take your 50K and throw in another 20-30% position size. Like, no, right? Like it's just no, right?
It's
like
not gonna happen.
It's definitely not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I just so I do keep pulling money out. Do you have like a dollar amount that you want to make every day? Is that a thing for you?
No, actually, I don't.
Yeah, neither do I. And I don't think maybe like monthly. But yeah, it's just, what you spend essentially.
I'm gonna be so honest. I don't even know my monthly. I kind of just do it to do it. And I'm like, whenever I see money, I'm like, oh, cool. Is it time to pull out now? No. Okay, cool. It stays in. Is it I mean, I'm never really on the losing side, and this is not just to be cocky.
No, it's because you're disgustingly rich, for sure. So clearly, Ace will never check his bank account again. That's how you know you've made it, right? If you never check your bank account, right, like you never have to think about checking your bank account, then you've made it and you can quit. So Sora is asking, so when should we average down or just close it when you have a losing trade? How do you know it's a losing trade, I guess, is the question.
Again, that goes on your own rules, right? For your own trading strategies. Is the play, what is the reason for you entering, right? Is that reason still valid? Yes or no? Again, it goes back to objectivity, right? Everything that you do within trading should always be a yes or no. There is no maybes. Is it at the bottom of that range of it almost being invalidated? And do you have enough wiggle room to actually average down? How much capital did you put in? And are you now over leveraged in terms of your account, right? So if you're not, and you have enough of a position sizing to average down, then I actually take it. I'll take the average down right at the bottom of that range. If it invalidates, immediately cut. You don't want to lose all that capital you just put more into, right? So you have that 100%. Little bit of room to average down. And if you need to close it, you close it, and it's still for a tiny loss. However, that upside is now ridiculous, right? Because you have more of a position and it has all of this range to the upside of wherever you're trying to go, essentially,
Yeah.
in terms of the option.
I think when I send my trades, I'll actually use like a stop typically. And like, it's really hard for most traders to calculate what the contract's going to be worth. It's just
Right.
like a just experience thing, right? I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
you don't put that there, right? Or do
I
you?
do.
You do.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think that, there was always this little inside joke with like the guys that trade with me and stuff. And I'm like, if you're going in, I'm like, just buy at my stop, man. Just buy at my stop, right?
Yep.
Because I'm like, because that's exactly what you're saying. I don't know if people really get that. It's that when we put a trade out there, it's like, I want to buy it below this price,
Yep.
and then I have a stop price, right? And when you think about it, that's a range. And
Yep.
that entire range, this trade is valid, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely valid. And so like, yeah, I might say I bought it at 10, right? And the stop is at 6 or at 7, right? But like I bought it at 10, stop at 7. But like the guy who just like took his 10% that he was going to allocate, or girl, and threw the 10% in, right? At 110, at 1010, because it was moving, it's now drawing down to 75. And
Yep.
they're like, dude, I'm down 40 per 30%. I'm like, what's your point, dude? Right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm buying. Right. And then like I'm loading all the way down to my stop, heaviest at my
Yep.
stop. And they don't get it, right? And they're like, oh, and then the best part is like, oh, didn't it tag your stop? I'm like, yeah, bro, I bought that, right? Or it went like $2 below your stop. You weren't stopped out. No, bro, I doubled down, right? It's like, because like, yeah, it wicks down. I'll average in, right? And I think I like to think of it, and you put it here perfectly, right? Initial entry 2.5 to maybe 5%, but I'm always planning on being able to go triple actually what my
Yep.
initial is, if not 4 times. Like I can go 4 times, but
Right.
I'm happy to go 3 times my initial, entry. And if you're not planning that, I think from a allocation perspective, from how much money do I want to allocate, that's how you should think, right? Like, and not chasing it is tough for a lot of people. I think it's just that's part of that robot behavior, robot mentality. Is like, I
Yep.
got in when I got in. If it starts going, that's fine, right? Like if I'm using 20 lots or 10 lot, or maybe you're just starting. I always get these people doing 1 lots, and I'm like, okay, fine, right? I'll
Mhm.
tell them, you don't necessarily need to take profit when I'm taking profit just because you have a 1 lot. You can just move your stop up, right?
Exactly.
And
Easiest thing to do.
yeah,
And I
and
do that for the small account all the time. They'll see
yeah,
me scaling on the main account. They're like, don't forget about your small. I'm like, I moved the SL up. What
yeah.
more
So
do you possibly
scaling,
want?
it's funny. Scaling only becomes a thing when your account has grown to let it
Exactly.
become a thing, right? When it's a small account, like for me, like it's
Actually, I haven't seen.
yes. Oh yeah, you have, this is perfect, right? When we scale in, I think that's what a lot of people get also tied up on. Let's say you did triple your position, averaging down, and then you're finally back to profit. How much do you take out on that first trim?
I
Twice.
typically have given levels, correct? For my given charts.
Price
So
action
if
levels, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or if I'm looking at the actual contracts chart itself, to see what it currently peaked out at, or whatever the case may be.
So yeah, I always do that, right?
Right.
I do not. It's really hard for me It's really hard for me to take a trade if I have not charted the option itself, not the chart,
Exactly.
but the option itself.
The option chart, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll do both of those, and if it's already tapped that level that I currently had, I'm probably going to be most out, because that was the levels that I was actually reaching for. However, I've now moved my SL up on the rest of the position, and if it has more room to keep going, then it's cool. I'm squeezing the most out of this fruit, right? Or in this case, out of this position. And my SL's already set to either break even. So it's like, no matter what, I've secured profit, number one. Number two, the rest of this position either goes break even, where it didn't even exist as if I took it, or it keeps going and I'm securing even more in terms of that potential, right?
Yeah. Okay. So when should we average down or just close? I think, yeah, if it's pulled back a little bit, you can average down if the price is still there, right? Like if the price is actually at the same level, but your contracts are cheaper, I think you could still average down, right? Like that is an example of what Ace is saying. If the play is still valid, you just bought really high IV, you just bought, the open, and, or if you bought the breakout. So I don't buy the breakout. I don't know about Ace. Ace is a morning trader, so maybe he does, right? But if you buy the actual breakout, you should know that everybody and their mother is buying the breakout, right? And
Yep.
so if you buy the breakout, IV is pumping, and
Yep.
and almost 80 something percent of the time, the breakout will retrace back to somewhere around where it came back from. And that small little retrace, that's going to be a big pullback in your contract value, because all that IV gets sucked right back out, right? So I think probably, I've seen some of your stuff. I think you're just like, you're in, and then once it retraces, you're out. Really, like a single market move,
Right.
for the most part. And one thing I do was when he was talking about volume, like the bigger candles. If you guys see big candles, that's good, right? But if they start getting smaller, then you need to be getting out of there for sure.
Playing the breakout, like you were saying, always a fucking key. We did it this morning. We played both sides on SPY, just looking at even just the opening range breakout, and playing that, right? So that's why I love the open, is because you have so much recent information in terms of that pre-market, and you're just applying it to the open itself.
So I think that goes to Anonymous's question, how do you avoid fake outs? So, what Ace has been talking about, this is all day trading, intraday trading, right? So his time frame, his time in market, which your average time market, 2-3 hours at most.
Yeah.
At most, right? So that's one, your trade will end in 3 hours. Number one, right? So if it's longer than that, you need to be closing her out. And how do you avoid fake outs? I think it's knowing that you bought the breakout, right? So if you buy the breakout, just take profits quickly. You should have profits fake. What did you have? Like 80% this morning in about 20 minutes flat. Every morning, I see Ace. How long do you wait before you actually enter?
I typically 15. I'll wait until like 9:45. As soon as it hits 9:45, if I'm not in a trade, I'm actively searching for a trade to happen, unless it's just consolidating, or if there's actual economic news happening within like 10 p.m., 10:30. Sometimes I'll wait it out.
Yeah, if you guys see those fat candles, those big green pointies, or those big red pointies, you can just load it, right? But otherwise, if it's like medium size, candles, that's Ace is 15 minutes. I'm definitely more cautious in the morning. More like, I don't even look at my computer for 30 minutes. I seriously, because I'm like, it's a pop in the morning, and if you enter,
hey, sometimes I'll get that confirmation in 5 minutes, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's why those big candles, right? With the confirmation is all about volume. Candles. Yeah, like the big pointies. Those are the ones that you can just like market, right? And you're writing until the big pointy isn't so big anymore, or until it's a small candle, right? Like
sometimes we'll wait out on the retrace, depending if, in most cases we've already sold out most of the position.
Exactly.
But even this morning we had a nice retrace where most of her position was out. We were actually down 5% on the rest of our cons. We gave no shits, obviously. And then it continued. We saw, I think it was like 60 to 80% by the bottom.
Yeah, for sure. Do you use fibs by chance or no?
I do use fibs, yes.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know if I've really watched. We should do a stream together at some point, like actual stream. But I'll use fibs when I'm screenshotting and sending to people. But my gut is, you guys, the Ace doesn't actually pull the fib tool out that often, because we can just look at a chart after a while and be like, oh yeah, it's about 50%, right?
Guys, my charts are so clean. It's ridiculous. There's almost always nothing there, because you should see, you should be able to see exactly where's your supply zones, where are your demand zones, what is happening at X, Y, and Z point, right? So it's to a point where, again, it's second nature, and everything that you see on the chart no longer needs to be drawn. Like if you're drawing out patterns, right? If you are a patterns trader, I'm not taking shots at you, but if you are a patterns trader, you should be able to just look at your chart and be like, hey, that's a falling wedge. Hey, that's an ascending triangle, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I think they're asking about indicators. Yeah, he basically just told you guys he doesn't use indicators. None of us really actually, most of us don't use indicators, period. Like we'll use stuff that will either auto-populate levels, and when we talk about levels, we're talking about horizontal lines, or volume, like
Volume.
Yeah,
That's literally all I use.
yeah, volume, right? Like that's it. Like it's just
Everything
momentum
else is
volume.
just going to be lagging to me in terms of my strategy, and it just doesn't work out.
Dude, and super distracting,
Yeah,
right? Like you can have 32 different indicators, and I'll have people come on and be like, dude, what do you think about my chart? And I'm like, dude,
it looks noisy.
crayons, anybody, right? Like I don't understand what I'm looking at, right? Like, I mean, I do understand it, but I'm not going to tell you I do because it's too much is what I'm looking
Right.
at, right?
Simplicity is always key, guys. If you're able to read your chart within 2 seconds, then that's a good chart for you.
That's all that matters. That gives you, because if you're not, I mean, you're toast. Because and that's the other thing is like people will see, oh, they see I'm waiting for a good retrace and they miss the trade, or or I'm waiting for it to come to a certain level and like,
you know what they say? I'm waiting for my confirmations. I'm waiting for RSI, my fractals, my KVO, my MACD, all to align to the stars.
Yeah. Like, no, it never happens that way. And by the time those all align, like Ace and I are out, guys.
Yeah,
like,
we're already out. We saw the move. Thank you.
Yeah, adios. Wilson's got a good question. Do you ever use OCOs? So I know I think IBK, I had a one-on-one or like a someone book a one-on-one with me not too long ago, and they were asking about order types. And for day trading, there are certain order types that you can pre-program. I don't know what Williams is looking for, but do you have any like buy with like saved orders or
so I do. And it is pre-calculated for me. I have no clue how the guy did it. It was one of my devs. On Interactive Brokers, you can actually
did the best for order types. Did you have any? They have so many.
Yes. And literally the guy just filled it out for me. He's like, what is your criteria in terms of entering a trade? I'm like, I didn't even know this was a fucking thing, but sure. And then basically I just click like start it up and it's good to go.
Yeah.
So I'm basically an algo
criteria?
at that point.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember.
Right. Export
I
it,
can
send
pull
it.
up my brokerage and yeah, I'll definitely send it to you afterwards. But yeah, everything is basically autoed for me at some point. And that itself on my interactive, I think has a win rate of roughly around 69 to 75%. I haven't triple checked it in a long time.
So this is why Ace is stupid rich, right? But no, I think like these are the things that people will start to like put together. I just want to arm them as best as we can, right? Like that type of little. It's the I don't remember exactly what you said, but I remember you saying it's this simplicity, right? It's being able to like take the noise away, become the robot, and have to do as little thinking as possible.
Yep.
Right. Like even though we may or may not be smart, or maybe we might be really stupid people, we don't know. Right. But what's important is that we react quickly, and we react 10 times faster than you react because we're not trying to look at all these things. Does that make sense?
We're not fishing through a sea of things, right? We're looking at an open lake with full 20/20 vision, as opposed to you with a billion boats in the water, 50 fishermen on each boat, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and we got our favorite polarized glasses, and that's it, right? That's it.
And we're just smiling at each other.
Yeah. Eventually, if we fish the same spot, we just know where they are. We just
go,
grab our fish, see you later, bye, and you're still hunting.
And I think the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how often we eat those losses. We don't care to have that 80% win rate or 70% win rate, whatever it is, right? We can lose 40% of the time. If we're profitable and taking home money at the end of the day, that's a win.
100%.
Right? It's not about the numbers at the end of the day. And unless it's money, at the end, money speaks. Are you profitable or are you not? It doesn't matter if you have that 95% win rate or 70 or 60, so on and so forth. Most profitable traders lose a fuck ton. But the reason why they're profitable is because they're able to put their ego aside and actually understand what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. There's so many people like, we get the screenshots. I'm really happy with what we're doing. I think, there's so many people progressing. And if you guys are in this, swear to God, I don't know why we haven't lost anybody yet, but like if you're still around, I think that you're investable as an individual trader to me, right? And probably to Ace too, because we wouldn't really be doing this, at this
No.
point, right?
I literally tell everyone I'm only in this space literally to help people.
It's charity
Because
work. Yeah.
it's not profitable for me to be taking my time out to be going on Twitch for free and just helping people out, showing my charts, giving them that calmness, right? It's all to assist you guys because I know that a lot of you guys are capable, even though I know most of you guys are gonna fail just because it is what it is at the end of the day. But if we can help that one or two people become financially free, then hey, I've done my job.
Absolutely.
And if I even just tried to help you out even a little bit, and it was you who couldn't follow, then hey, I still did my part.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Well, I appreciate you, man. You're freaking
I
awesome.
appreciate you, man.
Did you send the link to your hot tub stream? Make sure you guys sub for OnlyFans, right? Ace's
Oh,
OnlyFans.
I still can't believe we're like that actually might happen. That's ridiculous.
Oh my god, send it, dude. But yeah, I appreciate you again. If you want to give them like where do they find you? Shoot your website out, or whatever you want to do.
You guys, if you guys want to see me live trade every single day and see my ugly ass face with 5 pimples on my cheek, go to twitch.tv/ace of trades with 3 S's at the end. Other than that, you guys will see me around, and I hope to do another one of these.
Cool. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Appreciate it, dude.
Appreciate you. Bye, guys. Have a good one.